Hi everyone, I'm Martina, and if you are new here, I share infos which I think may help you by camping, outdoor adventures and RV renovation process. Today, we are diving into a more honest look at our Camplet tent trailer. We absolutely loved using it over the years, and I was talking about the 15 advantages of it in my last video. But like any other camping gear as well, the Camplet has its challenges. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 15 disadvantages of the Camplet that we have experienced during the 4 years of camping with it, and for which I think that you should consider them before you hit the road. So let's get started with the disadvantage number 1. Disadvantage 1. Storage of other items. One of the biggest challenges we have faced with the Camplet is the limited storage space inside when it's closed up. There's just not enough room for everything we need, which means that we often have to store things like our fridge, food and personal items in the car or elsewhere. It can be a bit tricky trying to keep everything organized, especially when you are traveling to different places in one vacation. For me, this process is not that stressful, but my boyfriend is pretty annoyed about it. And that's why we found it helpful to pack in plastic containers before each trip to keep things organized, and when we set the Camplet up, we put all stuff on more or less the same places as we did in the last years. Disadvantage 2. Heat in direct sunlight. When you are camping in a sunny spot, the Camplet can get really hot inside. Without proper shade, it can be tough to cool down the interior, and waking up in a sun-baked tent isn't the most pleasant experience, I have to say. We have learned that finding a shady spot is key, but if that's not possible, as it wasn't the case for us this year, then a portable air cooler can be a lifesaver. Disadvantage 3. Noise in bad weather. Being a tent on wheels, the Camplet tends to amplify the sounds of wind, rain, and every raindrop can sound like a drum beat. If there is a storm at night, it can be sometimes challenging to get a good night's sleep. We found that earplugs and a sleeping mask help reduce the noise and the light, making our rest a bit more peaceful even during those stormy nights. Disadvantage 4. No toilet. One aspect we really miss is the lack of a built-in toilet. It's not always convenient to have to get up in the middle of the night and walk around the campground to find a restroom. Other Camplet campers sometimes use a portable toilet, but managing and storing that can be a bit of hassle. So it's definitely something to consider if you value having a bathroom close by. Disadvantage 5. Uneven terrain setup. Setting up on uneven terrain can be quite the task. It takes extra effort to level the trailer and make sure it's positioned correctly, which can be time-consuming and tiring, especially after a long drive. We have learned to carefully choose our camping spots before the arrival to avoid uneven ground as much as possible, making the setup process smoother and avoiding arguments before we set up the Camplet. Disadvantage 6. Assistance needed for the takedown. The setup of the Camplet is very easy and doable by one person, but taking down the Camplet isn't one person job. You need a helping hand, which isn't always convenient if you are camping solo or with small kids, which right at the moment when you are putting the trailer down need your attention. That's why we found out having a routine and good communication with your camping partner can make the difference. So it can make the process much easier, but sometimes it can still be a bit of a challenge. Disadvantage 7. Longer pack up time. Speaking of takedown, packing everything away takes longer than setting it up. On average, it can take 1 to 2 hours to clean and pack everything, which can be a bit of a drag when you are ready to head home. My boyfriend and I sometimes end up with a chaotic inside of the car because we rush the packing process. I always say that finding a balance between speed and organization helps, but it's definitely a trade-off. Disadvantage 8. Cleaning effort. Cleaning the Camplet can be a bit challenging, particularly when it comes to the roof, which is high and hard to reach. As well for the tent itself, if there was bad weather or you park it in a muddy ground, you need to properly clean it so the dust and mud don't make other interior dirty. Disadvantage 9. Large setup footprint. Once it's set up, the Camplet covers a quite large area around 5 by 5 meters. This means you will need to carefully consider where to pitch it, especially if there are trees or obstacles nearby. We try to find pitches in campsites with enough space and without obstacles on the pitch, but sometimes it's challenging, and that's why we are doing our camping portal Campling, which will help us to find the perfect camping spot in the future. Disadvantage 10. Noisy zippers. The zippers on the Camplet can be pretty loud, especially at night. If you or someone else gets up for a midnight bathroom break, the noise can wake everyone up. It's a small detail, but it can impact the overall camping experience. We normally open the zippers as gentle as possible to minimize the noise. Disadvantage 11. Stability issues. Compared to an RV or a travel trailer, we have noticed that the Camplet can wobble a bit more if someone moves around on the bed. This is due to the wheelbase, and while it's not a huge issue, it's something to be aware of. But it hasn't been a deal breaker for us, as the same appears in the RV or travel trailer. Disadvantage 12. Space constraints. There are few space constraints, particularly near the edges where the wheels are. One side of the bed has less space and the other side slopes slightly, so ensuring the trailer is leveled properly helps, but it can still be a bit cramped in those areas. Disadvantage 13. Parking and setup in a campsite. Because the Camplet takes some time to set up, you can't just pull over and set it up in a parking spot or RV stop. You need a dedicated space and time to get everything ready, and I think this is as well something to keep in mind when planning your stops. Disadvantage 14. Setting up in bad weather. When we were camping the first time with the Camplet, we found out that setting up in bad weather can be interesting. If it's raining, it's tough to get everything in place without getting your bedding or other items wet, so you need to do the setting up process a bit faster than you normally would. And as well, if it's raining when you have to pack up, it's not ideal because it means you will need to dry everything out properly at home before storing the Camplet. Disadvantage 15. No locks. Finally, the Camplet doesn't have locks like an RV or travel trailer, so it's similar to a classic tent in that regard. This means that it's best to store your valuable items in your car or elsewhere secure. It's a minor inconvenience, but I think it's good to point out as well this last disadvantage we found on the Camplet. So those were the 15 disadvantages of using a Camplet tent trailer. Where there are certainly some challenges, we still find that the pros outweigh the cons, and I hope that this video helped you explore what you are getting into and can be fully prepared to make the most of your camping experience with a Camplet tent trailer. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell icon for notifications. If you have any questions or want to share your own experiences with the Camplet or other tent trailers, drop them in the comments below, as I would love to hear from you. So but it hasn't been a deal break. I will see you in the next video, and until then, happy camping! Bye!